today, earlier, met with the President's Cabinet, deans, and Faculty Senate President, Staff Association President, as well as the Snow Board of Trustees and student government. And so this is your opportunity to meet each of the finalists and to be able to ask your questions. This will be a town hall format. They will not be making a long presentation or anything, or even a short, very short presentation at the beginning. And then we'll look forward to your questions. And then we'll ask for your feedback. So I'm just waiting for the signal that our candidate is ready to come in. But thank you. Boy, you really quieted down. Good job. This forum is also being live streamed. And so I'm sure there's a huge audience watching from around the area, the state, country, and so forth. All right, let's introduce now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Brad Cook. We'll invite Dr. Cook to come in. Let's give him a hand.
Hello, everyone.
Right over here. So I'd like to invite Dr. Cook, if he would just introduce himself a little bit and maybe make a few opening comments, and then we'll go to your questions.
Listen, I want to start by a way of introduction in a different sort of way. I think maybe you've seen the CV and all of that, but I want to maybe talk to you a little bit about something else. I want to tell you a story about George, Betsy. I know that sounds like they're made-up names, but I assure you they're not. George Washington Bradley and Betsy Kroll, or Elizabeth Kroll, and Betsy was what she was known by, met in 1834 in Erie County, New York. And because of religious conviction, they moved from New York to Nauvoo, Illinois, and in 1848 made it across the plains under the direction of Captain Lorenzo Snow, and landed in, of course, in the Salt Lake Valley. But it was only there for a short time before Brigham Young asked George Washington Bradley and Isaac Morley and 50 families to go south 100 miles from Salt Lake to settle at the Sand Pete. So they arrived, they left in October of 1848, and by November, they set up camp on what is now known as Temple Hill in November. If you can imagine how cold and difficult it was for that group, they dug in on the south side of that hill and survived that winter, but just barely. So George Washington Bradley and Betsy Kroll are my great-great-great-grandparents. And I grew up with these stories of the fortitude, the persistence, and the grit of these settlers. So this part of the world is personal to me. I have a very strong sort of heritage and identity towards this place, and not only that, but as a kid growing up in South Sevier High School, my father was the principal of South Sevier High School. I was in Monroe Elementary School at the time, and living in the thriving metropolis of Central Valley, Utah, which I love. To look at that Coke fountain was just a thrill as a kid. But one of my earliest memories about Ephraim was really the only place that had an indoor swimming pool at the time. And I thought this place was Disneyland, right? I mean, it was just... But one of my earliest memories is my oldest sister, Jolene. I remember, I must have been like 6 or 7 years old maybe, dropping her off at Castanville Hall. And then if you forward that up to about 1983, imagine a kid who was living in Santaquin at the time, going to Payson High School. And there was a kid that just lived to play football. That's all he wanted to do. Problem was that Payson High's football team wasn't very good, so I was figuring that this was going to be the end of the road for my athletic career. Until I got in the mail this scholarship letter from Snow College. And I love this because it is for the award of $501. Why did it round down? I don't know, but 501, and that was to be dispersed over 3 semesters, $167 a semester. I'm sorry, a quarter, because we're in the quarter system. I mention this because here's why I came. Because Snow College believed in me. And you would have thought I won the lottery. Because I not only got to go to college, but I got to play football. And this was the start of an incredible experience that Snow College opened not only the door to continue athletics, but opened other doors. To go on and play Division I football, and to be able to have an incredible educational opportunity in California, which led to other doors, which has led to other doors. One of the things I was telling the students earlier today is this, that there's nothing exceptional about me. I've had exceptional opportunities. And this is what Snow College education can do. Even for unexceptional people like me, that someday, if you work hard, if you look for opportunities, that you too can maybe be interviewed for a presidency somewhere, or a CEO position somewhere, or a chief executive officer, or a hospital system, or whatever. But you can start here at Snow College and do it. It is one of the most, I think, intentional places that we have in the system, especially for our first and second year students, which is given the most vulnerable years of students as they think about persisting and succeeding. So I wanted to tell you that story because about my grandparents, because there's a spirit there. The spirit of snow is something I grew up with in the sense of what that might mean, and how I interpret that through the lens of my grandparents' journals and diaries, was that there was not only persistence and grit, but a predisposition to dream. Grandpa George ended up being the first mayor of Morona. He also ended up incorporating and creating a charter for Nephi to be a city. So this is just really sort of fun to be a part of the process of thinking about coming back to Snow College and maybe working with you and moving to whatever next level there might be. I'm going to leave it there, and I'm hoping it'll maybe weave in other elements of why as we go on, but I wanted to let you know that the DNA, the Snow DNA runs deep in my veins. So it's an incredible honor to be here, to have you considered for this position, and it would be truly an honor of my life to work with you.
Well, thank you very much. Let's go to the first question. We invite you to come down, and as you do, please share your name and your affiliation, and then ask your question. Thanks.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Springer. I'm the director of the Student Success Center here on campus. We're happy to have you on campus. Many of us are familiar with your work and certainly the work of President Wyatt. I wonder if you would take the time to compare and contrast your leadership style with that of President Wyatt, and I would ask that you please be as specific as you are comfortable.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate that. I've grown to really appreciate President Wyatt, and but we are two very different leaders. SU has thrived under his leadership. And there are some similarities and problems. Let me start with those first. and then I'll try to be more specific, maybe perhaps some Pittsburgh differences. The similarities in terms of our philosophy and approach to higher education and to higher sort of education administration are pretty similar in the sense that we understand that in order for colleges and universities to thrive, there needs to have attention paid to its growth model. Now that doesn't mean one has to grow at all costs, but in this state, you're growing, you're stagnating. So we really do feel together, I think, that a sophisticated and strong sort of enrollment management and strategic enrollment management strategy is key. We agree to that. I think we also agree that we also have to find ways in which we can provide programming to students in lots of different ways. The thing about Snow College that I'm very attracted to is we not only have the traditional age high school students, the 17, 18, and 19-year-olds, that come here and have a very sort of intentional experience, but because of the Richfield campus, there are other types of students that we have to pay attention to too, and that's just the non-traditional students. And I think that we would agree that academically and for student support, we have to extend intentionally and deeply to those. Here's the differences I've noticed. I think that President Wyatt, at heart, is a pretty quiet guy. I think he's at heart, he's, let me just say, I think I'm a little more social. He's very good, he's got a great sense of humor, but you kind of have to get to know him in order for that to come out. But my life experiences and his life experiences are different. My life experiences as I've come to the Academy is mostly through the academic lens. So I spend a lot of my time wringing my hands and thinking about the academic enterprise. How do we help students succeed? How do we make sure that our programs are of quality? And those are things that he thinks about are important too, but that's, again, he, as the president, has other kinds of experiences. So we actually were a pretty good match because I would be sort of very intentional about the quality dimensions, and he would be a great advocate, an external sort of advocate for the campus. What other differences? He's an extreme runner or hiker. I don't know if you've watched recently. He ran 150 miles for a fundraiser. I'll try to raise funds some other way. That just seems painful. Yeah, I think that I think there are a lot of similarities and differences. I don't know if that helps, but I will say this: that, and I'll speak to my characteristics and not his. But I'm someone that takes leadership and acknowledges that good leadership is really collaborative leadership. That good listening and participatory planning results in better decisions for the enterprise. Because I'm not the smartest guy in the room, I'm always open to listen. And we're always making better decisions. I think, even though we may make decisions a little slower as a campus, we're going to make better, longer term decisions that are going to be right. I've had an experience this way where when I was working in the Middle East, there wasn't a lot of shared governance and there wasn't a lot of collaborative decision making. And what I found is that often decisions were made impulsively. And that ended up being a real problem. And I think the more that we can spend time with each other, talking about these issues together, getting perspectives, then I think the clearer picture can be found there. That's what I'm thinking.
Thanks very much. Next question. Why don't you come forward? Invite the third question to be thinking of your question, so you're ready to come down. All right, great.
Hello, I'm Zeb White. I'm the Assistant Director for Student Life here on campus, and I just wanted to ask, looking ahead, if you were to meet the president, 10 years after your presidency were to end, what would you want your presidency at Snow College to be remembered by?
Oh, that's a phenomenal question. That's perfect. So let me list at least 4 things that I want you to, like, if there was an agenda, right, that I wanted you to think about my presidency, it would be in this order. One is that I want to continue to deepen and sustain the student success ethic here at Snow College. Student success. As a part of that student success continuum is to continue to sort of grow and have financial viability for the institution in the long run. And this means finding ways in which we're effective in our enrollment management strategy, we're effective with our legislative delegation, and we're effective with our donors. That's really key. You all, and we can't do what we really care about unless we have the resources to do it. And so we have to find ways within the mission to be innovative, even entrepreneurial. We're going to have to fight a little harder in order for us to do this, but we can because of the key characteristics of Snow College that are unique. Our price point, our reputation, our unique mission. We can do a lot of that. I also feel we need to stay affordable and accessible. I think it's really important that in the environment that we have in higher education, the student debt loads that we have in this state and in the country, that Snow College, maintain its accessibility through affordability. But lastly, I also think that I hope that in 10 years or so, when we look back, is that all of the great things that Snow College has accomplished, and the sort of succession, right, progression of Snow College, that succession and arc of accomplishments continues, which does mean that there needs to be a sense of maybe positive restlessness, right? There needs to be a frame of mind in which we can think about, question our assumptions about what we're doing. How do we do them better? And how do we get in front of students in the way that they need to be educated? So I'd like this place to be a much better place than it is now, and I'm telling you, it's a great place now. So there's a lot of work, and I think together, though, we can take it to its next level of excellence.
Okay, next question.
And I'm the Assistant Director of Procurement here at Snow. Dr. Cook, there are many ways to address budget shortfalls, and 2 of these are fundraising and the more efficient use of funds that we have on hand. So what have your specific experiences been in the realms of fundraising and the more efficient use of dollars?
Well, thank you, Jane. The first executive experience I had on higher education was as Vice President of College Relations at Utah Valley State College at the time. And that was a fairly large set of responsibilities. The advancement office reported to me, our marketing department reported to me, facilities, and a whole range of other kind of duties. But it threw me in as a young professional into this area of fundraising and advancement work. So we were part of a modest capital campaign of about $25 million. I've been involved in direct donor solicitation in that role. And so that was my first experience. But when I went on to be the president of the Abu Dhabi Women's College, you would think in a very rich Gulf state like the UAE, a president wouldn't have to fundraise, but you do. And so I was able to work effectively with donors there, And we were able to build a 400,000 square foot branch campus. We had funds to establish an endowment for 3 deanships. And that sort of experience comes with some great lessons in terms of interpersonal skills and being able to build trust with our donors. So I've got quite a bit of experience there. But it is something that if I were given the nod here, that I'd really love to lean into. I don't know when the last time we had a capital campaign here. But I'd love to study to see if we could set ourselves a goal and go out and get and meet that goal for that capital campaign does. The other thing you say that is important about resources is it's not only just about bringing in new resources, either through tuition growth or the tax base match or donors. What are we doing with the existing resources? Is that what you're suggesting, Dave? Yeah, so this is all part of good leadership, I think, is to be able to take a look at what we're doing and again asking questions and assumptions. Some things we do just because that's how we've done it for a long time. And one thing that we've done at Southern Utah University to take a look at this is to attach really each vice president through their line actually have to actually account for those things that they're doing and how it works. In other words, there's an intentionality there as they explain what they're doing. Is this doing what you think it's doing? And how do you know it's accomplishing that? And in some ways, we've been able to reallocate resources without changing anything or reducing budgets. We've been able to reallocate and actually make it a stronger organization. So being part of these kind of ongoing reviews is something that I've been doing for almost 20 years. And it's a healthy process to be part of.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
Hi, I'm David Allred, Chair of the English and Philosophy Department. And I'd like to hear your thoughts about general education at Snow College, the challenges or achievements, including the Foundations program, if you're familiar with that. And then also, could you talk a little bit about how you would work with the academic side of the college while being the president and not a chief academic officer?
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, thanks. Well, I'm really excited about what I've been reading and what I can sort of gather through what Steve Hood has been doing leading here is this integrated general education model. And I'm very curious as to how that's coming and how it's going. I'm really excited about integrated general education, and for the same reasons I'm guessing that you are. That we as learners, and all of us are learners, don't necessarily see the world through one particular disciplinary lens. It's not how we learn, right? We essentially have lots of lenses, right? And so when we're trying to make meaning of the world, we draw on all kinds of dimensions to us. And so our learners need to sort of understand that when I'm taking general education, often if I'm just taking my math class, I'm taking my political science class, I'm taking my writing class, those are very siloed experiences. And then we expect students to make the connections as to why those relate to each other. What integrated general education does, as you know, is it helps students make connections. Why math matters, right? And if you compare, for example, what we've done at Southern Utah University in what we call the Jumpstart program, where it's a great program where essentially students come as a learning community, as a cohort. And essentially it's a 30 credit class. In other words, a full year class. 7 faculty members create the curriculum. All of the general education faculty are creating the curriculum, and they're in there together. And so when you think about art and chemistry, faculty coming together, you can talk about the chemistry of color. Right? When you talk about when students are learning math, they can actually see how that actually translates into something practical and applied. So I think it's fantastic. I'm very, very supportive of it because I think learning is enhanced that way. So as the president, though, I have a lot of confidence in the academic leadership here. And so it's an opportunity, I think, what the president needs to do here, in my opinion, is primarily be that kind of outward sort of advocate, right? The bragger in chief, right? Out there sort of securing resources, finding ways to elevate the reputation of the campus. Now, being kind of a former provost and academic VP, I'll always have some opinions about this because it matters to me as part of the heart of the academic enterprise. But I don't see myself getting all that involved because I think that the academic leadership is fantastic here. But I think a president at Snow College needs to not only be an outward and sort of have an outward focus, but part of the reason I'm drawn here, though, is the ability to get re-engaged with students. This is the thing I've learned over the course of 25 years in higher education, is that the bigger institutions that I've been a part of, the further away you get from really the heartbeat of the campus and the students. Just because the administration and business of operating the university in a way takes you away from that. You have a campus this size, part of the real draw for me is to be able to come back and be engaged with students. So I really do try to, I sort of see that if I get the position here, to try and walk that fine line, being able to do what is necessary externally, but also, make sure that I'm being involved in student activities, athletic events, staying involved with the faculty and the staff, their well-being. I don't want to ever get too far away from that. So I don't know if that gives you a sense.
Next question.
My name is Al Riggs. I'm the director of the Counseling Wellness Center. You're probably aware that mental health challenges for college-age students in the state of Utah nationally is a very serious situation. I'd just like to hear your thoughts about how you would address the mental health challenges for the center.
Did you all hear that question? It's a really important one in that this particular generation of learners are struggling with depression, anxiety, and mental health issues in ways that other generations just haven't. And it's a crisis. The governor has called on a task force. It's a state priority. The Board of Regents has a white paper on this. I think everybody recognizes this problem here on this campus and at SUU and others. On the ground, helping students has been overwhelming. If you're like our campus, there's a weeks-long waiting list for mental health. So I have some thoughts about this. There were actually two major concerns I have for our first and second year students. One is, again, on mental health. And while we're trying to help triage and try to treat these students that come in, I wonder if we're doing enough on the front end in creating ways in which students have tools coming into college or into their college experience that allow them the wellness skills that are necessary. So I've been thinking about doing this at Southern Utah, creating a course or something about the science of well-being. The idea is that, can we have students that come to us, that we give them these skills, these tools? Can we help them understand that mental wellness is intricately related to their physical health, to their nutrition, to their stress levels, to technology? And we need to build a generation that has the resilience so that we're not just treating students, but they also have the tools to be, they can self-adjust and sort of self-regulate. And I would love, I don't want to sort of mess around with the general education or that first year foundations course. I would be interested in exploring, are there some things we can do as this these new first-year students come in, are there things that we can do on the front end so that we don't have them suffering later? The other thing that we need to do as a system and as a state is find more ways in which mental health professionals can be used. That's a whole other thing outside of the mission of Snow College, but I think that's a problem, having professionals, qualified professionals, to be able to handle these kind of loads. But I would love to explore with you your thoughts. Are there things that Snow College should be doing on the front end? Or even on the counseling side, that would really help alleviate some of the suffering, right, that our students are experiencing.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, I'm Josh Hales. I'm the HR director here at Snow College. I'm also a business faculty. If it's okay, I have a question texted to me from one of my colleagues in the HR office. She's out there holding the board, and I have it on my own. So the first one, and you may not know this, but I should apologize. I actually misattributed an article to the previous candidate that actually you wrote. So the question was actually supposed to be for you. I was going to say.
Almost white guy, be confused. You confuse us, right?
Dark suit.
Right, I mean, well.
So, anyways, you wrote an article with William Sederberg about concurrent enrollment that was published in the Tribune. It says concurrent enrollment don't compromise quality. Could you just maybe briefly summarize what you were going for in that article, and especially now where Snow has taken on the brunt of the concurrent enrollment workload in USHE, how you envision concurrent enrollment being a part of Snow's mission, and all that.
Thanks, John.
But,
so that article was written back in about 2000, early 2000s. And so concurrent enrollment at the time was different. The worry that President Sederberg and I had about concurrent enrollment at the time is that we were essentially giving away credit. And we were essentially, while the colleges and universities wanted to support concurrent enrollment, because I think it's a great value for the families and for the students. I think there's no problem there. Just the funding, there was the funding problem, and that was just financially not provided. Since then, though, there have been some legislative changes and budgetary changes to concurrent enrollment that are different. So concurrent enrollment does pay more. As far as I've really sort of been interested in seeing what Snow College has done in terms of taking the lead on concurrent enrollment. I'm committed to trying to keep this thing going. I think it helps students complete better, faster, more affordable. So the principles are all there. We just need to continue to acknowledge and recognize that it's not free to do this. So how do we make sure that it's viable financially? And I'm interested in sort of getting into that more. But at the time, I think I think that article was addressing a different era, and I think that's since changed. I don't think it's fully fixed though, but I am committed to it because I've seen the value that it provides to students.
So now the question for me, as the HR director, I have a lot of, most of the interactions with people are very positive, but a lot of the not so positive end up in my office, and I work very closely with President Carlson on a lot of those issues. So my question to you is, what is your philosophy on employee relations in general, and then specifically in dealing with corrective action, performance issues, etc.?
The CEO of Southwest Airlines just died last week or so. I forget his name, but there is something that stuck with me that I've been. There were about he had an interesting philosophy, and there are about 10 or so things that he kind of lived by. And one of the things that he said, because there's always this debate in business about, is it the customer, is the most important? Is it the employees that's the most important? It's the shareholders, right? That whole tension. Who do we really need to attend to first? And he had a really kind of an interesting sort of perspective that I had to think about. And his position was the employees are the most important. Why? Because the customer will be better taken care of if the employees are taken care of. And the shareholders will benefit because the customers and the employers. So, in our environment, I will strongly sort of underscore that the students need to stay at the center of our world. But I also, my philosophy is that we need to take care of our people. They're on the front lines with our students. And so on some level, there's something to be said, right, of paying attention to employees because of the way it serves students. So you had asked another question about process, Josh?
Well, about your philosophy on dealing with performance issues, corrective action.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. One thing that at least on the academic side of the house that I've worked on, we're actually pretty good, right, at performance. Because faculty are essentially, every year they're being evaluated. What doesn't happen as often is for staff to be evaluated for that. And I think that's always, I don't know how it works here, but I think that the important thing is that there's ongoing feedback with supervisors and employees and making those adjustments. I think we have an obligation to make sure that people have the resources they need to succeed. They need, I think, the direction and the counseling to make sure that they succeed. And we need to do, as college, everything we can to help employees succeed. But there is a point of accountability. And that the college does need to, once things are sort of spelled out and it's very clear, if the performance continues to be a problem, then at this point, this is where leadership becomes difficult but necessary. That there often needs to be a separation between the employee and the institution for the good of the org. So I don't know if that sort of gets at it, but I really do feel that we need to make sure that people have things they need to succeed. If they're failing because of us, and this was one of the things that I took really personally, is that if we had a faculty member that didn't get tenure, I took that person. We should never let somebody get to 6 years. There should have been a separation sometime before then, if that was going to be a mismatch or this. So, and I also think that to be fair to other people, if it's not a good match, if it's just not a good match, the kind thing to do, like the best thing, the right thing to do, is help them find another path. And when I've had to make these hard decisions, inevitably, 12 months from now, if I run across that person again, they'll say, that actually is a hard thing, but I'm in a better place. It's a better match. So anyway, it's rambling there, but that's kind of my thoughts.
Dr. Cook, while the next questioner is coming up, I'd like to, I'd like to just ask you a question as well. So of course we're here on at the Ephraim campus, but Snow College also has Richfield campus. Would you just talk a little bit about where the Richfield campus fits into Snow College and where you see its future and the priority you would give it as president?
So I mentioned before that there are really kind of two different types of students that we have to pay attention to. We talked about those sort of traditional issues. But we also have a really great asset in the Richfield campus, in that this is an opportunity to address the educational needs for non-traditional students primarily. And Central Utah has that need. These are people who may have not gone to college or had a little bit of college or something, that still need to get credentials and skills for them to get a good job or get a better position within the job that they have now. In fact, if I can give you actually some statistics here, we know that by about 2025, the high school student in Utah, the number of high school graduates will actually start tapering off. And so the high school graduates that the system has sort of just taken for granted as coming into the system, that won't always be there. And what we're realizing is that there's this huge unmet need of non-traditional students that need education. And this is where it's really exciting, I think, that the college can pay attention to career or technical education, finding ways in which these types of professionals can get certificates, associate's degrees, but also stackable credentials. What we're finding now is that employers are just looking for people who have, say, a digital badge in a certain area. So creating digital badges, certificates, sometimes these make a huge difference in the lives and careers of people. And so I'm actually really quite excited to take a look at this with you, take a look at how Ridgefield and how CTE can be expanded to the other 6-county region. How does Snow College expand its influence and its offerings into other parts of the service region? But I think a key part of this, though, of expansion, is finding creative and innovative ways to use technology, right, to be able for students who might not be able to move to Ridgefield, right, who might not be able to move to EFO to get their education. And so I am excited about that. I think as we grow those, I think what we're going to see in the future is more and more of our efforts needing to attend to the non-traditional students. And there are a lot more non-traditional students than traditional students. So this is the real value that Ridgefield provides to us.
Thank you. Next question, please come on.
My name is Alex Peterson. I'm the director of the Center for Global Engagement here at Snow College. And traditionally, two-year schools, junior colleges, community colleges are more focused on local issues and jobs and things. Sometimes we feel in central Sanpete County that we really are isolated from the rest of the world and have our own little world here. What would your vision or your ideas for global engagement at Snow College be if you were president?
Well, let me just sort of put a caveat here, is that if you do select me, international is a priority. And it's a priority for me because it's a priority because it's a way in which Snow College can advance its diversity and inclusivity agenda, right? It creates a greater, sort of richer learning environment. You have students that study with our domestic students. But I also would love to expand the opportunities for study abroad and overseas experiences. They can be absolutely transformative. Those of you that travel know there's nothing quite like an international experience to broaden your mind and shape you. So let me give you so when I first arrived at Southern Utah University, we had a little less than 100 international students. So if you think it was hard to get, international students to Sanpete, it's almost as hard to bring them to Southwest Utah. But we have over 600 international students. We have a goal of 1,000 students over the next few years, international students. We have created very vibrant partnerships. And I'm telling you, because I've been really heavily involved in this international work, there are many, many students who love Snow College education for what it provides. The ESL program, and also sort of the safe environment that EFO provides, very attractive for many families. One of the things that we're also doing at Southern is actually sort of riffing on a way on the concurrent enrollment thing. We're actually having Chinese students that come in as 11th graders to Cedar City, living with families, and taking English and concurrent enrollment as their language allows. This is really great because then now they're getting concurrent enrollment. They will stay at Southern Utah University as they pursue their degree. I would love to see whether that's something we can continue to do here as well. But I would love to give, as I understand, about 150 international students now from about 40 countries. What keeps us, what keeps Snow College from, say, 200 or 300 international students? Because I think the market is there. And North American higher education is really valued in a lot of countries. And, but I would love to sit down with you, because this is what you think about all the time. How do you think the university, or rather the college, ought to be thinking about its international agenda? But what you've done so far, and what I know, you've got lots to be proud of.
Thank you. We have time for one or two more questions, so please come forward.
I want to thank Josh Hales for the courage to ask a follow-up question.
It's the beard that gives it.
That's right. Western Governors University has announced plans to add an additional 75,000 students. Grand Canyon University is exploding, as is Southern New Hampshire. The quality of this online education gets better very rapidly. We expect no appreciable growth in our 6-county service region. Can Snow College be a viable higher education entity without a significant commitment to online education?
I think it's a great question, and I think it's a really important one. And I've actually spent a lot of time the last 8 weeks on this very issue. What's really scary about Western Governors, it's not about adding another 75,000 more students. They have a goal of 1 million more students over the course of the next 25 years. 1 million more students. And who do they go after? The non-traditional students. Because traditional education isn't meeting that need. Here's another interesting statistic. 90,000 Utahns take an online degree, and something like 77,000 of those are in institutions outside of Utah. They just don't have the degree. We should be keeping those students in this state. Those tuition dollars should be staying in this state. And what's really amazing is I just got back from Grand Canyon University, and I saw the power and the pedagogical quality that can happen. I think a lot of us, including me, I think have suffered from a bias of distance education and online education as being one particular model. But you know what? We've only seen bad online education. If we can see good online education, and it does exist, that quality question can go away pretty rapidly. Here's my thoughts on this. I think it's an important question, but a loaded question, especially for any particular campus, because it asks people to rethink how they might do things. This is tough. But here's what I would propose. Part of the reason there's a cultural challenge of moving to online is because faculty and staff often don't see the direct benefits to them. It's a modality of teaching that's different. That in itself is scary. I think they're biased about, we actually came here because we want the face-to-face experience. But what I found work with faculty is if they can see the benefit, if they can be supported, if we aren't just essentially asking them to do more with less, but if we're asking them to do more with more, it changes the whole dynamic there. And I think if you force people to do this, no one responds well to that. And you start with those that are interested. But I do think that we do have a generation of students who cannot come to Ephraim or to Richmond. We have a whole generation of non-traditional people that are not only in Central Utah, but all over the state, that could benefit from a Snow College education because of its price point. They can afford a higher education with Snow College than they can with Weber or University of Utah. That's a critical affordability piece that needs to happen. But I would love to get here and find ways in which just so you have, after reading the institutional profile, looking at the campus's growth, the Snow College's growth, you're at 5,500 students now, head count. By 2028, if you just grow at the typical rate, you're at 10,000 by 2028. One of the questions questions that we have things, if, you know, how do we absorb that particular growth? And one way that growth can be absorbed and they have the resources to do it is to be able to have a healthy component of online education. And it doesn't change the mission. And this is, I think, the real, think of one university, one college that is committed to online education that has suffered in reputation. Name one. That's a public university. I can't think of it. Right? So there is this sort of misperception that somehow if you go online, that you're somehow going to be diminished quality. And I think people worry that, oh, we don't want to be seen as an online school. That is also a misdirection and a misunderstanding of what can happen. With a healthy and vibrant online component, we can make the on-ground experience in Ephraim and in Richfield that much better. Because we have the resources to make it that much better. But these things are never done overnight. I think it has to be a lot of conversation about this, so it's a lot easier said than done. But it has been done, it is being done, and I'm afraid if we don't have, right, at least some openness to this, I think it puts institutions like Snow College at a major disadvantage in terms of competing for students in the future.
Well, thank you very much. Our time has gone quickly, but we are out of time. So let me just, before we thank Dr. Cook, let me just mention again the next steps here. So tomorrow, the Board of Regents with the Executive Committee of the Board of Trustees will be interviewing each of the finalists. We have posted a public meeting at 5:30 in the afternoon at Founders Hall of the Noyes Building, at which time the Board of Regents will meet and select the next president of Snow College. So we invite you to come to that. That will also be streamed as well. So with that, let us thank Dr. Cook.